Good afternoon, Tazik. Good afternoon, hello. 4:34 p.m. Wednesday, April 2nd, 2025. Variety. Lake Lady, hello, Marie. Wow, you got a notification. Yeah, you fell. Oh, that's pretty cool. So, Christy, a chat supporter, should say a channel supporter, thank you, mentioned that she fell asleep following a documentary. It was actually a documentary she found regarding new news stories, I believe, that are being unearthed related to the atomic bombings in Japan in 1945, Hiroshima, Nagasaki. And, well, we'll talk about that another time. I haven't watched it yet. I have watched a multitude of documentaries since then, actually. I might watch a short one today. So this is just kind of a little short video here. I'll just do this live one and done. If I had to pre-edit the whole thing, I would just overthink it. And I wanted to review a few things today. Basically, I have three things on my list. Well, first off is to highlight congratulations to Jonathan Cooey, Get Going Biological, starting Biology 101. And I've been so anxious and eager and excited for him to start it because although much of the work is him, I think a lot of it's going to tie into my content, and I didn't want to spill the beans on anything. So let's get behind him and continue to support him with the Bio 101. On my little update here, I just want to cover metrics, channel metrics, financial, and trolls. Troll policy. All right, so the first one's metrics. How are we doing as far as channel views go? I work very hard to maintain an extremely, and I have to really shrink off to the side in order to fit all this stuff, pretty accurate channel analytics here. I will have to probably zoom this out one more time, and I know this is going to be hard to see. But I have been keeping track of all of the views, the view totals on each of my platforms, whether it be YouTube, by channel, Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, and now stream.gigahome.bio. And previously, the work I've done on, TikTok, which is now, I got kicked off of TikTok, and some Twitter Spaces, which I don't really engage in too much anymore. I get so few views on Twitter. It's not worth the time. But I've been keeping the tallies at the end of each month, and will be hard for you to see, so I'll just read it through. So last month, for March of 2025, we averaged a total of 41,710 views with an average of 1,345 a day. Now, for some, they'll be like, that's a joke. Some people can get 100,000 views just by saying hello. I work very hard to not have any fake views. I don't buy any views. And I also have observed the various methods which can be used on different platforms to instantly give you like 800 or 1,600 or 5,000 free views. There's ways you can promote videos to give yourself way more views than you're actually getting. And I don't do any of that intentionally because I want to have a good level set. Now, so for last month, 41,710 views, and those are hard-earned views, and that's with maximum censorship against me, and no promotions, and no advertising, and no fake views. If you go back from March of last year, it was almost exactly the same. We had 41,710. A March of last year, 2024, 41,079. So it's almost like within less than 0.1% difference. And then the year before that, 35,363. And then the year before that, I was getting a lot of extra views on YouTube that I couldn't really understand. And that was before censorship. Before that, I was easily getting 40, 50, 60,000, even more views a month, easily on YouTube. And that just stopped right around 2022, actually April, right around the time our son died. Interesting. My views crashed. I'm not saying that the two are related, but that's when it happened. Matter of fact, I had a month in July of 2022. I barely had just over 20,000 views. My best months were actually going back then, was 2021. But since that crash was probably in late 2023, I really worked my way up into the 50,000 range, and then it's been just kind of wavering ever since then. Now I've lost my established YouTube channels. That doesn't help. So as far as channel history goes, as older videos get more and more views over time, they may go up in ranks. And I don't really have a lot of that on YouTube anymore. I lost a lot of that, and that stinks. So you can see I've been trying to color code it. It's been, green is like, how'd you say, more than the previous month, or I should say the 12-month average going up. Pink is the 12-month average going down. So you can kind of see we're kind of in this state right now where my daily views are kind of locked in, right? I'm kind of maintaining this average of 3 years right now, 2 or 3 years. And I don't know how to break out of it. I don't think it's going to come down to promotions. I don't know. I think what it's actually meant to do is to be discouragement. My interpretation of this is that there are probably more views than I'm getting. Some people have sent me evidence that I've had views erased. As a matter of fact, I've actually captured evidence of views going down on YouTube. I've actually seen views going down. Like, how does a view go down? A view will go down if I've had a video deleted, right? Because of censorship. Views don't go down if I delete a video. If I delete a video because of, I don't know, I wanted to make a better version of it, or I thought it was outdated, I get to keep the views. But if the video gets struck, I lose the views on YouTube. I don't know about other platforms. I don't think I've ever had a video struck on another platform. Maybe a couple on BitChute, but that was just related to like music copyrights or movie copyrights. I wanted to share a couple of videos I thought were of historic significance. Regardless, I work a lot at this. I spend 2 or 3 hours, give or take, on the midday, on the first day of every month, going over all the channels and going over all the views and collecting them and aggregating them. And if there's any funny business going on, I would know about it. You can see on a month-to-month basis, I only get about 10% of my... I get about a quarter of my views on YouTube. Let's see here. On Odyssey, I only get about less than 1,000 views a month. On BitChute, I get about 14 to 18,000 views a month. So BitChute is actually my predominant platform that people watch my program. Housatonic.Live. Rumble, last month it was about 11,000. I've had some months where Rumble gave me 20,000 views max. But I think Rumble is also starting to clamp down on me. I can see the analytics on Rumble, and I'm getting slightly less views every month. Twitch is going up, and I get about 1,000 or so views a month on stream.gigahome.bio. And so, anyways, we are now lifetime total 2,308,000, and I fight for every single view. Good news is that every view I get is worth a lot of money. A lot of money and a lot of energy is spent into ensuring views don't come in on this channel. And every view is a treasure. Every subscriber is a treasure. The next issue is money. We just did taxes. Last year was a very bad year as far as the overall program goes. I think it was like a total of $8,000 or $10,000 loss. Some of that was because I had to buy 2 new servers last year, and I paid for, IKEA cabinets and various studio updates, etc. I definitely spent way more than I allocate typically for a year for assets. How would you say the purchase of assets, which are capital assets and depreciate and so on. This year, I should have a lot less. I also lost my largest supporter last year. And this actually ties into the third one. My largest supporter, who I love the guy. I greatly admire him. I'm so thankful that he's definitely been a big part of me getting to this point. But he has certain political positions that, he feels very strongly about. And, I believe that people should put the money where they feel as though it's important. If I had a lot of extra cash and was supporting channels, I would support channels that at the very least were upfront about the severity of the drug epidemic in the United States of America and the total number of drug overdoses. Almost no one else will ever mention it, save Jonathan Cooey, Giga Home Biological, and maybe a couple of the channels, Joe Marshall of the Liberty Perspective, but very, very few will ever mention it because presumably they are just paid not to mention it, and that's okay. But that's all right. We'll work it out. We made a $500 contribution last year to the team sharing 5K race, and this year I wrote out a check for $1,000. So whatever, it's debt. I don't care. I did notice a couple of additional PayPal contributions. Thank you. I think one was Paula, and I'm sorry I don't have the names written down in front of me. It all helps. It's greatly appreciated. And thank you guys, because this is almost 6 full years right now. The last thing I wanted to mention was trolls. I've seen some people complaining that, I don't engage in a chat enough, or I'm afraid to, take on an argument or lose. And I follow that up because effectively I'm paying to do this myself. I don't work for you. A few of you are kind enough to make contributions, and to the point where if you have a question, you'll notice I'll actually just do a show to answer it right away. I don't work for people who don't give me anything. So I don't owe you anything. I owe you nothing. As a matter of fact, why should I spend my time that I'm paying for to argue with someone that's not going to argue sincerely and is being paid to argue with me? If you want to give me $20,000 a month and start matching, a job that I left to do this, then fine. And if I accept it, then I work for you and I will argue whatever you want and submit to whatever you need if I take it. I don't work for you, though. So, as a matter of fact, if you're not being paid to come here and argue with me, and if you choose to spend your life to go online and lie and argue with me, that makes you such an incredible loser that I don't even owe you anything. As a matter of fact, it's terrifying that such a person would even spend their time here. So we can dismiss that right away. And if you are paid to be here and argue with me, just the same, there's no chance. By the way, I don't work for you. I can say whatever I want. I can just say 1 + 1 = 3 over and over again for a year. Doesn't matter. I'm paying for it. If you want to pay me, fine. And I don't mean $1 a month. If you want to pay me like I used to have a job at Dell Corporation, my manager said, hey, I don't like the way you organize that data in that competitive spreadsheet. I could choose to leave my job, or I can be like, hey, okay, Vito, fine. I'll make the change for you even though I don't agree with it. And there you go. So anyways, there you have it. That's basically a troll policy. I'm paying to do this. No one pays me to do it. If you want to pay me a lot of money to engage in a certain way, then fine. Otherwise, you're kind of stuck here listening to it. Just the same, most of what I do is research and archival. I find the evidence, I archive it, I organize it, and I say it. It is, as I mentioned yesterday, it is beyond any dispute. It is irrefutable that the number one thing that was spoken about and argued about, discussed, debated throughout most of Congress for the years 99, 2000, and 2001 was how to use an anthrax vaccine. It wasn't energy. It wasn't a nation. It wasn't Social Security. That was it. So when I make the assertion that if people aren't talking about the foundation of an anthrax vaccine and the advancement of the Human Genome Project, as probably the foundational issue and a main motivation behind the events of September 11th, 2001, which connect that event, that series of events, to COVID-19. Well, that's what the evidence says. So you don't have to argue with me. You have to say, you know what? We should just ignore all the evidence. Anyways, one of the benefits of being an archivist is I just show you the evidence. And half the times I'm surprised myself. And going back to Biology 101, a name you're going to hear a lot, a name you're going to hear an awful lot with respect to Biology 101, finally, is Joshua Lederberg. Finally, some other researcher, some other scientist in this space is going to be mentioning Joshua Lederberg. Finally, because no one else will. Just like people will never mention Alice Moore. They'll never mention Estes Kefauver. Obviously, no one's going to talk about Brandy Vaughan ever again, other than Jonathan Cooey and myself. No one's going to mention that. As a matter of fact, I'm proud to say, like at 1 month, actually, if you go to my budget, you'll notice that every year or every month, I have allocated about $50. I call it promotional, but in reality, I use it to pay for like a tweet, or not a tweet, but like a super chat a month, right? I figure every month I will strategically do, maybe a couple of $20 or $150 super chat somewhere to get some visibility or impact. Kind of advertising, but whatever, okay? And maybe it's not paying off, but I feel good about it. So this month, I decided to do it early because I noticed that Jenny McCarthy, I think she was a Playboy model at one point, and got some notoriety for taking a autism awareness, potentially autism being caused by a vaccine stance, and she got a lot of notoriety for that. So Children's Health Defense today had Jenny McCarthy on talking about that situation. Of course, Jenny McCarthy reiterated, she actually said, we need to stand up for Andrew Wakefield because of he lost his license. She actually said that, like, oh my goodness. And then she went on to say, hey, I'm not against vaccines. I'm for safe vaccines. Okay, Jenny, that's great. I can see that she's either knowingly or unwittingly, being pulled down the appropriate path, the approved counter narrative, right? Anyways, I said, you know what? Screw it. So I paid $50 for a super chat on Rumble. I'm like, hey, this would be a great time to talk about Brandy Vaughan. And I could tell Polly Tomey was doing the interview, and you'll actually know when Polly read that message, because you'll actually hear her go, you'll actually hear her breathe in, like she tightened up. She tightened up. She saw that. Polly Tomey saw that. People are still going to ask about Brandy Vaughan. And, the more energy that seems to go into never mentioning Brandy Vaughan. By the way, I did try to reach out to Tina Marie, and she's gone totally silent on me on Facebook. I'm beginning to wonder if the Learn to Risk group has been intercepted. It's a possibility, because I think the flags have been going up that this Brandy Vaughan issue is getting hot, and it's going to be a problem. But I said, what the heck? So I did the message, and I could hear. Now, if she was, breathing like throughout there, as she was holding the camera, maybe moving around or something like that, I would said, it's just coincidental. But for the most part, she was silent. And she had her exchanges. She would talk. She would ask questions. Polly wasn't on the camera. She was holding the camera, right? And but I hit that message, and like within 3 seconds, I heard her go, beautiful. So there you go. So that's my day. And this, I'm playing the audiobook for, not Big Shot AIDS vaccine, for Germs Biological Weapons. And it's a total catastrophe. It's just an absolute catastrophe. The chapters in the audiobook don't line up at all. Not only do they not line up with the chapters in the book, they don't even line up with chapters. I mean, one chapter on the audiobook just ends like in the middle of one of these chapters. So I don't know how I'm even going to approach that. But going back to the topic of Joshua Lederberg and him being a major part of Biology 101 and Jonathan Cooey, Joshua Lederberg just happens to be one of the most cited people in this book that came out on, I think, September 8th or 9th, 2001, by New York Times editor Judith Miller, Stephen Engelberg, and William Broad. And Joshua Lederberg also coincidentally, was appointed by Donald Rumsfeld after September 11th, 2001, a bacteriologist, before the anthrax letters even happened, to do the internal Pentagon investigations regarding what happened with September 11th, 2001. So, feel free to question the possibility that Jonathan Cooey is on the wrong track, because it just so happens that this I think, could potentially amazing American, Joshua Lederberg, that no one likes to talk about, this person that was foundational in describing how bacteria use phages as amongst other things to actually exchange DNA and genetic information as a way to reproduce. And I think knew significantly more about the world of phages than most people ever know. That it was he who's in this book about germs and biowarfare going in 9/11, and it was he who was appointed by Donald Rumsfeld after September 11th, 2001, as part of those Pentagon investigations. So, again, if you don't want to believe that the vaccine and the Human Genome Project and so on are foundational issues regarding September 11th, 2001, which connected to COVID-19, feel free. But it's a freaking bacteriologist that ties all this together. And it's that bacteriologist and the science that bacteriologist tried to show us, this Nobel Prize, this Nobel laureate, that Jonathan is going to be diving into, and I'm going to continue to refer to the work of Lederberg to help us better understand these events, because apparently no one else wants to mention the most important people. Pretty strange. So, with that said, I may do another show in a little bit. Let me see. Let me just say hi real quick. Do I keep cutting out? Why do I have my name on there? I don't need my name on there. I don't know. I don't think I'm cutting out. Set up a monthly subscription. Where do you want us to view? Great question, John. I don't know. YouTube just completely cut out all of my, how would you say, financial support. They blocked everything. They let me view, they'll still stream on there. So I just co-stream out on YouTube. And maybe I should stop, because half the time I actually want to take videos and clean them up and repost them, cut out, times where I'm searching for something or my stuttering, etc. Sharpen them up a little bit. But I don't know. At some point, you just keep throwing spaghetti on the wall, and you just have to be persistent about it. Eventually, it's going to start sticking. Eventually, there's going to be enough dried, crusty, tomato paste out there that things are going to start sticking. I believe I just have to be persistent at it. It will. I just have to believe. And by the way, thank you, John. John in our chat helps me, has helped a lot. Christy in the chat, she's helped a lot. Marie, she's helped a lot spiritually, definitely, friendship-wise, and many of you. And, if you do have, extra resources, again, I've, to a fault. I try to be upfront. I've had a career that I've been able to obviously use, right, to do this for a little while. 6 years right now. It's helpful to have some income from it, but Jonathan Cooey's given his whole family's riding on it right now, and whereas he invested his earlier years getting to the point where he should have had tenure, now he doesn't have it. Fortunately, I was in the tech industry, so I did okay, relatively speaking, at least to most Americans. And we just take it month by month and see how it goes. I am considering selling my old 66 Impala, maybe raffling that off or doing something like that on eBay. I'm not going to use it. It's sad, but I would, what's more important is to keep doing this. And if that can buy me, another couple of months or so of, or another year, who knows? I don't know how much I'll actually get for it. At this point, the thing is totally disassembled and has, generations of mice living in it. Poor thing. Anyways, so we'll see. So yeah, so the support on PayPal is totally helpful, and I know I'm horrible at thanking people. I do what I can. I promise you, I'm at it 24/7. Either, doing other stuff around my house to cover things while I'm listening to stuff on my headphones, or researching or archiving. And if I had a team like Tim Pool has a team of 20 people, you'd see a very different operation. But that's not it. That's not it. So, could the location of Flight 93 crash be like 9/11? The 9/11 room for the original SARS super spreader? I don't think so. I don't think. I mean, it's possible. I have no idea. All I know is that there was no plane crash there. And here's okay. I'm gonna throw out an interesting data point. I've only met one person in my whole life that died on Flight 93. Guess who it is? I'm gonna leave it up to the chat. I'm gonna give you 10 or 20 seconds. Guess. I just happen to only know one person that said, "Hey, I had a friend that died on that plane." It's someone that you guys would know. Because up until I met this friend, I never knew anyone that died on Flight 93. Take a guess. Just take a wild guess. I want to see what comes to mind. George Webb? No. I don't remember him saying that anyways. Yes. Woohoo! Jessica Hockett. There you go. Jessica Hockett. And that's strange because, I knew of Woodhouse. I knew of Jessica Hockett's work. But Jessica Hockett never followed me or acknowledged my... I should not say that she did not follow me because I wasn't checking. But I don't believe she followed me until after July 3rd of 2023. And I believe it was after July 3rd. I wonder what happened that weekend. Jessica Hockett never followed Jonathan Cooey either. So Jessica Hockett comes into the orbit of Jonathan Cooey and myself. And I guess it's kind of cool because she had 30, 40, 50,000 followers. Hey, this is good stuff, right? First she goes on Jonathan's show, and then I have a interview opportunity with her, and then, we shared the messages. You know what happens from there. But it was interesting. I said to her one day in I think it was actually a voicemail, that I didn't, that, I was at the Flight 93 site, and I've looked at the pictures, and I have no idea what happened to that plane. But there was no plane there. That's... And again, I have no idea what happened with that flight. All I know is that you look at the pictures. There's no evidence of any plane whatsoever. So with that said, she said, "Oh yeah, but I had this friend in Chicago that was on that plane." And all right. So someone that never came, never talked to me, and it would just happen to be Jessica. So I don't know. It's just one of those things. He goes, "Huh, that's interesting." Yeah, Jane Ruby. I don't know. I've never had a chat with Jane Ruby. Yeah, get out of town. Well, there you go. It's the truth. And she said it, and I was like, wow. Well, now that didn't change my opinion that there must have been a plane crash there. It simply, matter of fact, it reinforced my belief that whatever happened with that plane, wherever it crashed, I just don't know. But obviously it must have happened because this absolutely transparent and honest, amazing, gifted researcher, Jessica Hockett, had a friend die on that plane. So obviously it must have been real. Now, that doesn't mean that now I'm questioning the whole, where did it crash? If it crashed, I just don't know what happened to it. And if it wasn't for Robert Malone's working at that breast cancer research center, that Winber Center, which is now the Soon-Shiong Center, I never would have looked at Flight 93 at all. I had no reason to look at it. Nothing that I was looking at encouraged me to revisit that. As a matter of fact, I knew very little about Flight 93 crash, the Flight 93 crash. I mean, there's a Hollywood movie about it. And it's a very dramatic movie. And, of course, there's the terrorists, and the terrorists take over the plane. And then they have the little postcard picture of the White House that they put on the dashboard of the cockpit. And they use that. They're like, oh, this is what it looks like. I mean, that might be a bit of they made that part up. I mean, really? You're just gonna fly around the East Coast until you see a building that looks like the Capitol building? Is that what they actually suggested? Not to mention how many. If you think about the Capitol building, do you really need a picture, a postcard in front of it on the dashboard? And that's the Flight 93 crash movie. It's amazing. It's funny because in the end, during the U.S. occupation of at least Afghanistan, maybe Iraq as well, they implemented genetic data harvesting. And there's so much in this book that talks about, again, it shows how this concern about biological warfare always seems to turn into, how do we vaccinate people? It's always the same story. So it's not really it's not speculation that it's about the Human Genome Project, by the way, the announcement of that was in 2000 or 2001. The announcement of that was in 2000. And their completion was before 9/11. Out of the Human Genome Project came the announcement of the National Nanotechnology Initiative. So all of that stuff is deeply connected. The use of DNA microarrays to be able to identify, how would you say, biological agents. All of that stuff. It's all connected. And this is what the books say. Well, what the heck? I'll just let this one bleed into the next here. So I got a couple of interesting papers I popped up here. All right. Scooby Dude, do you think the Silk Road Online 2011-2013 has played a role in the rise of the opioid and other drug overdose deaths that we've seen since then? This is a good question. Did the more wide availability of those drugs create more addicts, make people think they are not dangerous, etc.? I've wondered if the Silk Road was allowed to flourish for few years for the purpose of increasing overdose deaths leading to the pandemic. I agree. I agree with the last part. I'm not sure if it's possible to stop the introduction of fentanyl into the United States. Also, fentanyl is sadly pretty widely available. You can access it. Veterinarians can access it. There's a lot of ways that it can be attained within the United States legally. Maybe if it was, if the quantity coming from China was less, it would be harder for Americans to access it. I don't know. I haven't really assessed it. But there's some very telling data points about the opioid epidemic. One of them being, if you watch that Department of the recent 60 Minutes video, where they show a man who has managed to win his battle with addiction, and which actually happened quite a few years ago right now. They highlighted how the United States Department of Justice dropped most of their charges against Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family in 2006, 2007, after which the drug epidemic in the United States got substantially worse. It's an odd move, and there is this suggestion within the research community, as you probably have picked up on, and in books like Empire of Pain, The Secret History of the Sackler Dynasty, there's this suggestion that the opioid epidemic happened because Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family were reckless. Now, the possibility that some people were allowed to die and there was a cover-up because of, to protect profits, that's a plausible narrative, but only up to a point. If we are looking at approximately 900,000, nearly 1 million drug overdose deaths over the last, 10, 15 years or so, and to suggest that we had nearly 1 million deaths in the United States allowed so one company can make an extra $1 billion, I will not even entertain the possibility that that's true. That's a ridiculous proposal. Right. Go the other way, right? Do you think an executive at Ford Company would say, you know what, let's save $1,000 next year and do so in a manner that will kill 500 people? That not even a bad person would say yes to that. So the suggestion that this drug epidemic is entangled with corporate profits is, again, it's reasonable, but only up to a point. And the point here is it's way beyond that. If there were maybe 300 deaths, maybe 1,000 deaths, then okay, I could see that. But we're closing in on 1 million. Right now, it is possible. And I'll throw out some data that just some interesting connections here. Now, Bill Barr was not running the United States Department of Justice back in 2006, 2007, but he has been in the department a lot, on and off, over the last 20 or 30 years. During the Trump administration, Bill Barr took over the United States Department of Justice again. And the drug epidemic, although it was at record levels coming into the Trump administration, only went down a little bit. And then immediately after, at the end of the Trump administration, the first one, it got significantly worse. So Barr actually appointed his daughter to run opioid enforcement for the United States Department of Justice. Why? Talk about nepotism. And as far as I'm concerned, she didn't accomplish anything. Now, the pandemic narrative would not have worked out as well, right? The deadly novel virus and how many it killed and dropping life expectancy, if the United States did not have the drug overdose epidemic. It would not have. It would have been, if the life expectancy in the United States was going up during the pandemic, it would have been painfully obvious that it was just either killing old people or taking advantage of the fact that more old people were dying because of our existing demographics within the United States. That would have been bad. So both mainstream media, PBS NewsHour, Anthony Fauci, they all used the opportunity to say life expectancy is going down. It must be the drug epidemic. And people promoting the lab leak also did the same thing. Life expectancy going down, it must be that gain-of-function virus that Fauci and Dajak and China made, etc. They all eagerly used the data, and they all similarly refused to highlight how the escalating drug overdose epidemic in the United States was making it possible. If they had taken the time to parse out, to highlight how bad this drug epidemic was, and although it's not the whole reason why we had more people dying those years than the previous years, but it's a big part of it, that would have been a sign of goodwill. That would have been a sign of, well, they're not actually trying to use it. What I saw was a effort. It was collusion. It was planned. There are people who went online who made videos, and I assume that they're getting paid by someone to go out of their way to say extra deaths and dropping life expectancy is not the opioid epidemic. Jessica Rose, Pierre Corey, many people, to some extent, through because of what he did not say or was told not to say. Even Robert F. Kennedy Jr. himself is complicit in this. They did not call out those numbers. They went so far as to say that it's disconnected. So if they are choosing to use their own time and money to tell this lie, that's horrible. That's insane. Or they're being paid to do it. And now, while that makes them prostitutes, at least I could understand it. Okay, so they've decided to prostitute themselves to make money. They've decided to prostitute themselves, even though it's going to kill other people, because they wanted some money. All right. They have to live with that decision. But at least it explains what's happening, because what they're saying is a lie. So, did the Silk Road help? Maybe a little. I don't know. Yeah, there were more people that became addicts. But there were a lot of people who died who were not addicts. And this is a key part. There's many deaths of people who were not addicts. There were children that died because there were pills out there that were lethal. People have done drugs in many countries for many centuries. And there's been times in the United States that drug use was very high, and it's had major impacts. But I was just talking with someone yesterday. When there was this protest and activities in the United States throughout the 1960s and extensive use of heroin, we didn't have 100,000 people dying a year of heroin overdoses. Yeah, it screwed up people, especially if they used too much of it when they were young. Yeah, it resulted in decreased output. Yes, it resulted in families issues, etc. But it wasn't killing people. So fentanyl is just lethal. As a matter of fact, that is exactly what fentanyl is usually used for, to kill people. Hospice care. Fentanyl is many times an ingredient that is used as part of lethal injection. So, and if you think it's simply being used because drug cartels want to make more money, well, I suggest that drug cartels are making less money than they have in a long time. There's no money to be made if you kill your clients. I actually think that the amount of money that's been available to drug cartels has been plummeting. Why would they want to kill people? You know what everyone says about the pharma companies? That they want the pharma companies, they want to get people sick, and they want to keep them sick so they make money. All right, fine. Let's put that out there. So if one were to suggest that means that the people, the customers, need to stay alive in their sick state for the pharma companies to make money. All right, I can understand that. That is something that's reasonable to speculate. But then you can't say that all people who are using drugs dying in large numbers would not have negative financial consequences for drug cartels. It has huge consequences because their customers are dying. I get very frustrated when there's different views and different interpretations of things that conflict with each other, proposed at the same time by the same people. This would suggest that this effort, and I'm throwing out there some pretty hardcore speculation, is coming from somewhere to kill people, to kill Americans, to murder them. I believe that there was one of the reasons why people were paid, such as Jessica Rose and Pierre Corey, to prostitute themselves, to sell out, to go around the world and say that the drug epidemic is disconnected in the United States from the data that's being used to suggest the vaccine is bad or the virus is bad. They prostituted themselves to get money, to protect themselves, and maybe and also as a consequence of that, people will die. They made that decision. How can anyone ever argue with that? What do you think? They're ever going to go, oh, wow, we made a mistake? Never going to say it. If anything, there's going to be a doubling down, and they're going to have even more events and conferences to promote each other to show that no one's talking about it. They have to live the rest of their life with that. Anyways, I do have to move on. But yeah, so I think the Silk Road might have helped a little bit. I'm sure it didn't hurt it, but my speculation is that the drug epidemic is more than just cartels wanting to make more money. I think they've actually lost a lot of money through this. They've lost a lot of clients, and I believe somewhere within the powers that be, efforts were made to discourage people from talking about it, to misconstrue it, and to even facilitate it. You'll find it online still. Some of the largest fentanyl seizures in the United States of America happened in November of 2016, within weeks of the unexpected victory of Donald Trump. It's almost as if suddenly the FBI realized where all the fentanyl was being held. Isn't that crazy? Isn't it weird that the FBI figured out where all the fentanyl was being stashed? There was a collection in Shrewsbury, Massachusetts. I think it was Shrewsbury. It could have been, I know it wasn't my town, but it was in one of the towns nearby. They had a seizure of collection of fentanyl, and I think it was November 2016. It might have been December, of enough fentanyl to kill, I think, like 50 million people. It was in a U-Haul container or something like that. All of a sudden, they found all this fentanyl. What did they do with it? Not that you need to protect it, because it's relatively easy to get. Anyways, so those are my updates, and I guess those are a few additional comments on this. They were busy exonerating Hillary. I think that the drug epidemic was getting worse, and I think it was being fueled potentially by people within the United States government. There was definitely an unnatural correlation of fatal overdose rates in the United States. They were the highest fatal overdose rates were in red districts, red counties, in swing states. Now, it's not a rule. But if you looked at the map, look at what are the swing states are in 2016, you'll notice that the fatal drug overdose rates were worst in swing states. That red states actually, for the most part, did not have as much of a problem as swing states did. Why swing states? Why not blue states? And Texas, which was mostly a red state, did not have the problem. It was swing states. And then if you dig in and if you look at the areas, it was red districts in swing states. If the election was close enough that 10 or 20,000 people could have made a difference in the presidential election, why not suggest that a selective killing of 5,000 or 10,000 or 20,000 people around the country could have impacted the outcome of that election? Why not suggest it? It could have. And then the rate started to go down a little bit during the Trump administration, but not much. Nothing to talk about. Going down a little bit from a record level up until that point is nothing to write home about. And then it got substantially worse. It went up another 50% during 2021. It was off the charts. No one talked about it. It was buried. So yeah, that is my speculation, and the word to use is murder. It's not. There was no pandemic. The word to use is murder. It's not. There's no viruses, and they misconstrue things. Calling motorcycle accidents COVID is not a crime. The CDC is free to recategorize any death they want to. If they want to call shark attacks COVID deaths, that's their right. That doesn't kill anybody. The categorization of deaths doesn't kill anybody. It's even up for debate if it's even a crime at all. So why are we highlighting that part? We should be talking about why were there more deaths? Well, there were more deaths because a certain percentage were expected, demographics. A certain percentage seemed to be hospital protocol related. And then there was also this drug epidemic. And there's probably a fair number of people that were injured or killed by the initial rollout of these gene therapy medicines. You add those together, you probably get a number very close to the observed additional deaths year over year. Maybe there's a possibility that there's another few hundred or a few thousand, which you can't account for. And if you want to say it's a gain-of-function virus, go at it. However, now you're suggesting that all of those other things should be ignored because you want focus on this one little thing. Do you think that was the real reason why many politicians hated Trump, because he really went after the drugs? He really did not go after the drugs. He tried. I know people that met Trump. I have a friend that actually has a letter from Trump hanging on her wall because she and a bunch of other parents who represent or have children that died of drug overdoses met Trump. And I remember there was, in Trump's first year of his first term, he tried to allocate, I think it was it was a very small number. It was like $20 million or $30 million for some recovery programs. And, there was a riot about it. Not quite, but you could just see this reaction. Oh, my goodness, Trump wants to spend $20 million on this addiction thing. It was so little money, it was almost a token amount, but it was something. And I don't think he was ever able to pass it. I think they actually fought it. He wasn't able to really do much. you'll have different interpretations about, why was Trump hated. And I'm still uncertain about where I even land on it. I think he's a little bit I think Trump's a little bit of a wild card, or at least was a kind of a wild card. He wasn't 100% bought in, okay, and at least for his first term. Now I don't know anymore, but he was a bit of a wild card. But I mean, I could speculate about that for hours on end. And what happens is it kind of gets me out of my wheelhouse, right? I find evidence, I archive it, I put it out there, and I kind of read it for what it is. Sometimes, such as in this case, regarding motivations for allowing the drug epidemic, because of the evidence I've collected, because of, I think I have some additional freedom to speak about it, given what our family has gone through. It's one of the foundational reasons why I ever started to do this in the first place. I put out there stuff that's kind of speculation, and I try to be very clear when I'm speculating about something. So I feel confident in saying it, and I have some authority, but I don't know. I really don't have an opinion that's really worth anything regarding why the system doesn't hate Trump. I mean, maybe I have a feeling inside, but I don't know. And if I had a well-researched, well-grounded, evidence-based idea there, I'd share it with you, but I kind of don't. So I apologize for that. But one thing I do have a lot of evidence on is all of these 9/11 books did nothing but talk about vaccines and DNA vaccines and excuses to use gene therapy on the military. And Robert Malone seemed to have many connections to it, and many other people in our story. And that's just what the evidence says. So that's up for him to explain. Anyways, that's my update, and I guess a couple of some Q&A as well. I may restart the audiobook for the Judith Miller Germs book. It needs to be reformatted and split up in a different way to match the book. I also need to start taking some notes again. And I think, I'm still not sure, but the book I'm going to read after that is either Cobra Event or Big Shot AIDS Vaccine. And maybe I'll do another video later on. But I think that's enough for now. Thank you, guys. Thank you for the supporters. Trying to keep you guys glued in on what's going on here. Take care, everyone. Again, go to stream.gigaohm.bio. Jonathan Cooey's show from today is online there. And it's exciting to have the Biology 101 finally coming out. That's enough for today's. God bless.